Okay, let's try and prove that you don't have to be a math genius to make good character AI, which I want to do over the next 2 tutorials. Okay, say you got this dude. Let's make the first of many behaviors. First, he's on his phone 50% of the time. In a sec, I'll show you how to program this in the game. But basically, randomly, this guy is staring at his phone. Alright, now, let's make this interesting. This is our first function. We'll go and wrap it up, and then we're going to go and complicate it. This guy's got a boss, right? And he pops in a little less frequently with a different timer, say only every 5%. We'll call that Y. He pops in, he sees this guy, and if he happens to actually catch him holding up his phone, he's going to freak the guy out and decrease the percentage he's actually on his phone. And that's our next function. So with 50%, the guy is going to pick up his phone and stare at it, and if you graph that out, you'll see roughly 50% here. He's plus or minus, he's going to look at his phone. Now with the boss, that's going to degrade every time he gets busted in a semi-predictable manner. Now if this guy actually has a personality, he tends to ignore, like the devil, he's going to use his phone anyway. It's still going to have a similar decay, but it's going to be a little more jagged. He's going to use his phone, not care, or freak out more with the angel. But this is what we're going to program at the end of this. Now in our next tutorial, I'm going to expand on this, and we're going to let the user control the boss. That's where we really introduce the randomness. And the user, it's the same kind of decay that you're going to see when he gets busted, except it's going to seem more random because we get to control, instead of the boss, when we pop the boss in and bust this guy. So that it actually feels more. The little subset is our teeny brain, and we're going to do this programming exercise next. But that's only one variable. You add in stress, food, how does that affect his decision making? This is my stress matrix. While he's driving, does he freak out when he hears the phone ring or gets a text message? Or at his office, is it less stress when he picks up the email? Or if he gets invited to a party, does he get anxious and change his behavior? So you take this guy, you add all those variables, and then you clone those to different people, and you give them different variables, and you cut them loose in a little self-contained world or a game stage. What happens over time? Do they actually bump around and pretend to be like Sims? So we got his behaviors defined by X, the boss, the user input, and his personality, and then you add in environmental stuff like how much time elapsed since he slept, or stress. And then you take all that, you bundle it up, and then you start to tack in other people that bump into, and that's going to be fun. Okay, I'm using Gdevelop 5, but you can pretty much use anything. It's just the concept of creating pseudo AI simply. A lot of the coding is 50% of it is just painting these variables on the screen, so it really isn't a whole bunch to it. So this is my game stage. This guy, this is the boss, he's off the stage. This is the actual screen area, but we're gonna have this guy running, checking his phone. Right now, the events are set up. Basically the boss is set to 0% checking in on the guy, and the guy's gonna check his phone 50% of the time. So you run it, and that's what he does. So when the value is less than 50%, he's gonna check his phone. And this is the total time count, and this is how many times he's checked his phone. So this should roughly be a 50% ratio, which is pretty close. Okay, you get the idea. Okay, so that behavior is kind of explained in here. We're checking this variable phone check, it's set to 50, and we're checking for phone check if it's less than 100%, this random number. Then we're gonna make the guy check his phone by changing his animation. You don't have to worry about this stuff, that's just the label. Now, when we start to add in the boss's behavior, we're actually going to check to see if we're gonna have him pop in. Right now it's set to 0%, he's gonna come in. But if I set this to 100, he'll be there the whole time. So right now it's 0. And we're just going to check. If he pops in and the guy's holding his phone, we're going to decrease the phone guy's value from 50 to 49. And let's go ahead and, just for kicks, set that for 50. And play it. So if the guy pops up and he's holding his phone, it's going to decrease his percentage. So this is going to make this guy naturally check his phone less and less every time the boss pops up. And we can do a cool trick to watch this degradation by setting the boss's appearance to only show 10% of the time. But we're going to speed it up. Let's crank this baby up here. If you watch this number here, and you watch this guy's picture, you see he's checking his phone less and less over time whenever that boss pops up. And that's what that curve was I was showing, where it's eventually get to such a low number, there's very little chance the boss will ever bust him. Okay, so that's the basics of what I showed in the little cartoon piece. Next tutorial, I'm going to wrap in more behaviors, like letting this guy walk around and change his behavior if he hasn't eaten, or he changes his animation to walk to a different room based on some of these variables, and then start to introduce other characters. And a running demo of this is in the link below. If you click it, you can play it in your browser. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.